as soon as we left Bohemia, I went to a doner kebab shop with Nicky Mamper because we were starving. Of course, when you're drinking a lot, you're getting hungry. All of a sudden, everybody was just singing songs, and we were dancing on the tables and chair. And Louis Dunk entered the dinner shop as well, and we were partying together. The promotion party back in Brighton, it was just one of the best experiences I've had in my life. The bus tour across, I don't know, 100,000 people standing at the seafront. It was just amazing, and no one really cared about winning a title or come in second place. It was just about getting promoted in the end. So he preferred Connor playing on the right-hand side, and he sees me more on the left-hand side where Louis was playing. Yeah, not a good decision in my opinion that time from Chris Hughton. It was pretty unfair to me to play Connor ahead of me. I mean, I can't wait to come back to Brighton. And I mean, there's still a lot of familiar faces, especially around the squad and the team around the team. So it's on my agenda, definitely.
How have you been? How's life been at Paderborn and since you left Brighton?
Well, actually, it was quite successful. It was the right step for me to going back to my former club. I couldn't have seen it before that we've doing so well in the past. I mean, I came back to Paderborn and we got promoted straight away to the Bundesliga again. And since then, we've been in a second league now for 2 years. We are playing a quite solid season this year. We're in 8th position now. We've got 4 games left, which is for Paderborn pretty okay. We don't have the biggest financial possibilities in the second Bundesliga. Probably you're following it a little bit. We've got big teams like Werder Bremen, Hamburger SV, St. Pauli. So these teams, they all have to get promoted because they not made for second Bundesliga. So and then Paderborn has got I would say the 4th or 5th worst financial possibilities in this league, and for that reason we're doing quite well. So but actually we want to do playing for the first 10 positions, which is pretty cool. And the club is trying to establish this club under the best 25-30 teams in Germany, and right now we're doing that pretty okay.
How have you been kind of playing as well?
Yeah, I mean, in my age, it's not common that you're playing like every game. Until my red card, I've just missed a game through a yellow card suspension. Apart from that, I've played every single game this year, which is personally pretty cool and pretty good for me. I'm really glad about my personal performance this year, and I could help my team to perform in a pretty good way. And now I'm injured and I'm suspended. So yeah, for me it's like we've got 4 games left. I'm not in a rush anymore. We've reached our target, our goal this year. So if I'm getting fit again, I try to play again. But if not, I'm fine with that, and I can go on holiday in 4 weeks and try to get fit for next season. So it was the right step for me to going back. I'm feeling still really competitive in my age, and I'm turning 37 next January. And it's going to be probably my last season. I don't know yet, but in my age, you only can look 1 season ahead, and then you have to make a decision maybe next March, April. What's up next for you then?
Well, it's pretty impressive that apart from your suspension and your injury, you were mentioning you've been playing pretty much every single game this season. At that age, normally in football, you wouldn't have that, especially as a centre half. So that's very impressive. And the fact you're reaching the goals you are, then that's really impressive. Have you you say you've made the right step? How's life been back in Germany on the whole? Obviously, your home country. Has it been good?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty close to my hometown where I grew up. So my family is living close by. My friends from my old friends from my youth time, they live in like 15 minutes from here. So my mom is coming pretty much to every home game, and whenever it's possible, I go back to my home club and watching games from their teams, and it's close by. I live in 50 minutes from my home club and 50 minutes to Paderborn, so I live in the middle of it. It's nearly perfect for me playing like professional football pretty much at home, and I see my future here in Paderborn. I've spoken to the club already, and they're trying to find a solution with me playing after my career, and trying to find a job for me. And I try to do my badges, and which is pretty cool. And because actually this was my biggest, I would say, fear after my football career, what's coming next, because it's for a lot of footballers, it's a big step for their second career, I would say. And I know already that I've got a good chance for having a job in my current club, and which is pretty cool for me. So I feel very comfortable here in Germany. I cannot ask for more.
I was going to ask, actually, before we could talk about your Brighton days, what your long-term ambitions were. Is it kind of coaching and potential management in the future then?
As I said before, I want to do my badges. It wasn't that easy in the last few years because of COVID, and I have to do it during my next season at any point, or whenever it's possible. I've spoken to the manager, to the CEO in a club, and they all want me to do it, and they're already having plans with me. So this is my ambition for my second career. I don't want to sit too much in the office somewhere. I see myself more on the pitch, as maybe as a coach, as an assistant coach, and football is my life. So I want to give my experiences to young players to use to kids. Normally you have to start somewhere in the under 14s, 15s in a club, and can tell them what's important for becoming a professional footballer. And that's actually my goal for my second career.
Mm-hmm. And kind of now moving on to Brighton, and when you signed for the club, what made you decide to come over to England and join Brighton in the first place?
Well, back in 2015, it was actually a pretty difficult decision to make for me, because I've played already for Paderborn and I was already 29. So not the youngest player anymore, and I knew already that Paderborn could fit for me, like in the upcoming years. Like I've seen myself maybe ending my career in Paderborn, even though I was still 29, and you already have like 5, 6, 7 years in your tank. But I mean, they've shown me everything from Brighton, the training facilities. They've invited my family before I arrived at Brighton. It was really impressive how hard they tried to sign me. And actually, in the end, I made the decision to go to Brighton, and it was really a good decision in hindsight, because it was a great experience playing for Brighton, experience promotion with them, and we've had actually 3 successful years, even though I got injured in my first year. But in general, it was a great experience. I got to know really great teammates. Like, first of all, it was like Bruno Salto. He was really important for me coming to Brighton as a foreign player. And you've had like Baram Karyal, Thomas Hammett. It was quite easy for me to settle in because of all these other foreign players. It was a little bit easier for me to get a connection to them, maybe of the language. It was easier to talk to them, because at the beginning you're always a little bit shy, trying to speak English. But it wasn't a big deal for me, because I've learned English in school, but it's different. But I felt comfortable from the first day on, and I haven't had a long time to settle in, because after 3 days or 4 days, I made my first game away to Fulham, and it was 100% start for me, and we got away with a massive win, last minute winner of Tom Mohamed, and yeah, it was a great experience and a great start for me.
Yeah, I was going to ask actually, did you have a pre-season at Paderborn then? And because you signed quite late on before that game, and then it must have been quite a whirlwind. You say about the language, trying to settle in was quite easy with the foreign players, but it can't have been that easy, surely, having 4 days before your first game. What was it like?
Actually, from the moment I said to Paderborn I want to leave to Brighton, it was still like a chewing gum, because I knew what Paderborn was asking for the fee, and what Brighton was offering. So I thought maybe they have to cancel the deal. In the end, it worked out, and Brighton paid the fee. And I was traveling to training in Paderborn on a Tuesday afternoon, or it was Tuesday morning. And on the way to the training ground, my agent called me and said, the deal is done. And I arrived to the training ground and entered the dressing room. And it was quite a weird feeling, because I knew now I just have to say goodbye. And one of the other players of my former teammates has seen me a day before at the stadium. And he thought maybe I've extended my contract in Paderborn, because I was in the office of our sporting manager. And then I said, no, I haven't extended my contract. I was talking to him because maybe I'm going to leave, and now the deal is done. And on a Tuesday evening, I was flying with my agent, Gatwick, and all of a sudden I was in Brighton on a Tuesday night. Trained on, Wednesday was off, actually. I think Wednesday was off because they played a cup game on a Tuesday night away to, I think it was Luton Town. And normally on a midweek game, the day after was off, and Thursday was my first training. Friday was the last training before Fulham, and on a Saturday, Chris Hughton started me, and yeah, I had no time to think about it.
What was it like making your first appearance at Brighton? Was it a bit of a different experience than playing in Germany, playing in England?
Definitely. Obviously, I was really excited and nervous before that game, because it was a different challenge. My first game was against Matt Smith. He was playing at Fulham that time, and he's like 195 meters tall. And I thought maybe in my biggest strength was winning duels in the air. And the first 4 or 5 heading duels, I haven't seen the ball, because he was bigger and taller and stronger than me. And I thought, what the hell is going on here now? And I had to fight and had to dig in really hard in that game. In the end, it worked out. I had cramps after 70 minutes, because it was a different challenge. Maybe because you were nervous. A lot of things happened at the same time. But then Dale Stevens had cramps as well. So that was our third sub at that time, and I had to play through 90 minutes, and I was really happy that we won in the last minute. I didn't go to the celebrations in the corner. It was too far away. I couldn't run anymore, and now it was a great experience. And we started, I think, with a midweek game as well to Huddersfield, and so we had 3 games in 7 days, which is pretty common in England, but not business as usual for me when you're coming from Germany.
Mm-hmm. I was kind of obviously wondering about the promotion season. We'll be talking about that in a minute. But away from that whole season, whole campaign, what were your highlights of your Brighton career? I know it's quite a difficult question to go down to just a couple of moments, but if you had to pick a couple, what would they be?
Well, actually, the day of the promotion was pretty much the highlight, I would say. But that first game away to Fulham at Craven Cottage, which is a pretty historic ground to go, and that was pretty amazing as well. So I would say probably my first game for Brighton to Fulham, and the promotion game, and probably that game against Blackburn at home when that Shoreham disaster happened. I still get goosebumps now. I mean, that was pretty tough and hard that day. To handle the emotions. I mean, it was like 3-4 hours before our home game, and nobody really knew what was going to happen. And it was pretty tough. And probably these 3 games will stay in my mind for forever.
For the Shoreham disaster, how did you, as players, come together and play then after that happening and having that news?
Um, yeah, I think we've been already in a dressing room in the stadium. It was normally we arrive like 3 or 4 hours before a home game in a dressing room, and then we walk over to having lunch, and then we've received, or we've seen the first videos coming online. I don't know where, or maybe on YouTube or in some of the newspapers. It was really difficult for us to understand what actually happened, and nobody knew already knew how many people were affected, or how many people, if anybody died, and it was pretty difficult. But as soon as the game started, you can still focus on the game, because it's your job and at that time. And I mean, 2 weeks after, we had that home game when the whole stadium were placed with the big shirts of what was his name, Matt Grimstone. I think it was his name. Yeah, he worked for Brighton, and I mean, that was even harder a little bit, because everybody knew now what was going to happen 2 weeks before, and more details come alive. And I mean, in that moment, everybody has seen what kind of club Brighton is. I mean, you've seen the togetherness that time, and what was pretty amazing. And I will never forget these days and that time in Brighton.
What does it mean to you to have represented the club through that time, and also through better times, obviously with the promotion, etc.? We'll move on to that properly in a moment, but what does it mean to you as a player to put on that shirt every week? Or maybe not every week, but most.
I mean, I couldn't be prouder to play for Brighton that time, because how the club has handled this kind of situation, probably you cannot do it in a better way. I mean, what you want to do as a club, I mean, it's quite difficult for every people who are affected, and they tried everything they can do to help these people to get over this kind of disaster. I mean, but I was really proud, especially the home game. We entered that the pitch, and it was, I mean, I'm still getting goosebumps now. I mean, it's probably no one ever will experience something like that. I was really proud playing for Brighton, and I still can say that I was in the right club at that time in that kind of situation.
And now moving to the promotion season, then a bit more positivity there. Did you go into that campaign as players knowing that was the aim? Obviously, missing out so closely in years beforehand. Did you know that, okay, this is the year, we're going to do it? And did you have that confidence going into it?
I mean, actually, after coming short a year before in a dramatic way, losing to Middlesbrough on the last match day, and then losing in the playoffs, having 4 injured players away to Sheffield Wednesday, ending the game with 10 players and losing pretty much the playoff game in the first leg, was pretty hard for us. But then we went on holiday, but we came back, and for us it was clear. Our target was clear. We want to try to play for promotion again, and we kept our squad pretty much together. We had some good players, but for us it was pretty clear. We want to try to go again, which is pretty ambitious in that kind of competitive league with all the clubs. You always have like 10, 12, 15 clubs that want to get promoted. But we had that togetherness, and we know we are more than capable of doing this kind of season again, and which was pretty clear for us. I was still injured, or was coming back from injury, but I was involved in all these meetings, and I knew. I mean, how can you know that you're going to achieve the same thing, but same kind of points at the end of the season? But we had that togetherness, we had that ambition to go again for it. And I mean, we started pretty well. We had some standout players in that year, were really important for us to going up. And but in the end, you need some kind of luck, of course. But to come back from a setback a year before, to go again is pretty amazing, I would say.
I think defensively that season, it was just kind of incredible to see how much of a unit you were in defence. How important was it having the likes of Lewis Dunk and Bruno alongside Sebastian Pocognoli, Shane Duffy, David Stockdale behind? As a unit, did you get on really well? Because it looked like that from the stands.
Shane came to the club that time because I was injured, and Connor Goldson had a heart surgery that time. And I remember Connor was always saying to me, Uwe, get fit. We don't want to sign another player, because we both knew if they sign another player, it's going to be hard for us to play. But in the end, I mean, we had a great bond, especially between four of us, four centre halves, and I cannot blame anyone for my playing time at the beginning of the season, because Lewis and Shane, they played unbelievable. They were rock solid all the time. And when I was back in training, I tried as hard as I could to get back into the team, even though I know it's gonna nearly impossible for me to come in. But it was my challenge that time to force them to get to another level, and this was my challenge that time, my task, and I tried really hard, and they played so well every week in and week out, and this was my challenge, and I didn't blame anyone. I didn't blame the manager for it. I was just happy that we are winning games, and I had to wait for my time. I had to wait quite long in the end, but no, I was fine with that kind of situation. It's all about the team that time. It was the same for Connor, so I was quite glad that it worked out so well for all of us. And everybody did his part in the end to get the promotion done. And I think Lewis was the only one who played nearly every game. And I mean, he's still playing right now for Brighton. I knew when I arrived at Brighton, he had a shaky first season. When I arrived, I was playing quite a lot with Gordon Greer that time, but he had so much talent in him, and I'm really happy for him to see him playing so consistently on a high level. And he deserves every praise. And I mean, he's the right Brighton skipper now after Bruno retired, and I'm really happy to see him playing so well now.
We'll go back to the promotion season just a second, but you made me think there. Do you think that Lewis Dunk should have played more games for England? He's only got one cap at the moment. And of course, I think he's 29 years old, maybe even 30 now. Do you think it's too late for him? Do you think he still deserves an England call? Because a lot of people were saying that he deserved to be in the Euro squad with Gareth Southgate.
I mean, if you just compare it now to Ben White, I mean, I don't think Lewis is a worse player than, he's not as good as Ben White, but Ben White is playing now for a big club, and in my opinion, it's the only problem for Lewis Dunk that he's still playing for Brighton, which I'm pretty happy about it, and I think every Brighton fan is happy to have him. But it looks like as long as you're not playing like for Big Six club, or maybe for Everton, or I don't know, it's really hard to get an England call like regularly, because he's not he's as good as Tyrone Mings. I mean, he's playing for Aston Villa. Lewis is playing constantly, really on a high level for 3-4 years now in the Premier League, and he should have had more England caps by today, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's refreshing to hear actually from you, Uwe, that you think so too. Because as fans, it feels, we don't want to be biased, but I mean, we're not biased. So many rival fans have even said, yeah, Lewis Dunk, he deserves a call-up, especially with how badly some others have played at times. So it's quite incredible, really. But going back to that promotion season, the game against Wigan, of course, was the one that got us promoted in the end. You were starting that game. How did you feel when you found out you were starting that one? And was Shane unavailable that day, wasn't he? So I suppose you probably knew that you would be playing.
No, it was Shane broke his foot weeks before.
Of
It
course,
was already.
Yeah. I'm trying to think back to
How many match days we played Wigan before the end of the season? 3-4 match days before the end of the season. I think it was
something like that. Yeah.
I mean, I think it was 42nd or 43rd match day, and I started playing like 6 or 7 games before, because my first game was away to Rotherham, and Shane got injured away to Nottingham. He broke his foot, so actually it was my time then. And yeah, I think I've heard a lot of fans were quite unsure if I'm able to get the job done, because I didn't play a lot. I just played one game before away to Brentford. It was quite a shaky game, and I didn't perform that well. After such a long time at the sideline, it's not that easy. But I mean, it was a big challenge for me that time, because I knew there's a lot to play for. I mean, you hear these kind of some money that is going around when you're getting promoted, 100 mil, 150 mil for a club. So it was quite a big challenge. Fortunately, we won that away game to Rotherham. I played well. I think we won the first 3 or 4 games with me in the starting lineup, which was pretty good for me. And so it was pretty clear for me that I'm going to start against Wigan at home, because Shane was still unavailable, and Connor was then the backup for me and Dunkey that time. And I mean, it was already clear that we actually can't get promoted after our game, because Huddersfield was playing later on, because of the goal difference. I mean, if we win, it's pretty much done, because we were 12 points clear and 25 goals clear to Huddersfield with their 4 games in hand. And as soon as a final whistle was done, everybody was just conquering the pitch, and the fans were asked to not enter the pitch. But I mean, it was just overwhelming. I mean, everybody just running the pitch, and you just in between all these supporters and celebrating promotion. It was one of the best feelings in my life. I mean, I will never forget that. I've seen videos where I'm dancing in between all these supporters, which is pretty nice and cool. And it was a great day, great experience. It was a bit nerve-wracking. I mean, we've conceded a late goal. They got 1 goal back. It was 2-1, but
I think 85th minute. It was 2-0.
Yeah, I think it was
back.
Yeah, Nick Powell, I remember, if I'm not wrong. It was a bit nerve-wracking, but in the end, it was quite comfortable getting promoted for 3 days before the end of the season, 3 match days. So, I mean, it was just a great day, great night out, and it was just perfect.
How did it feel, kind of any standout moments on the pitch at all, in the lead up to, as well in the dressing room? Firstly, the dressing room, actually, what was it like? How did Chris Hughton motivate you all, and what was the feeling like? And then on the pitch, what were the key moments, do you think?
I mean, Chris Hughton, he was still really calm. I mean, we had to motivate him to celebrate a little bit. I mean, he got, of course, we threw all the beer bottles or beer champagne over him. I mean, which is probably pretty common everywhere. And we celebrated in the dressing room. Some of the players were watching the Huddersfield later on in the stadium up there in the lounge. I just made sure to get my car back home and drove back to the city to the club where we want to celebrate promotion. I think it was Bohemia. And then, the celebration started. And unfortunately, they closed the Bohemia at 1:30. I've never heard that before, that a club or a bar closing their doors at 1:30, which is far too early for celebrations. And then we had to carry on somewhere else. And that was the only how do you say, like, bad moment that night.
Yeah, the only downside of that was the
Yeah,
nightclub shut early. I was going to
yeah.
ask you, what did you get up to after the game? Because there's so many videos of Lewis Dunk at the train station dancing, and I've heard stories of people sitting down and having kebabs with players. Did you meet any fans out in town? You must have done, right?
Yeah, as soon as we left Bohemia, I went to a doner kebab shop with Nicky Mamper because we were starving. Of course, when you're drinking a lot, you're getting hungry. And as soon as we entered that doner shop, there were a lot of fans as well. And I mean, they were happy to see us. And all of a sudden, everybody was just singing songs, and we were dancing on the tables and chair. And Lewis Dunk entered the dinner shop as well, and we were partying together, everybody. And I don't know for how long, like let's say 45 minutes, an hour. I don't know. You're gonna lose the time feeling, and then we left dinner shop and we went to Brighton seafront. And but I don't know. Actually, I didn't go to some kind of club down there. I don't know the name anymore. It was far too early that we finished our night out, but we met each other on the next day on midday again, and went to Revolution with some of our players and started drinking again. So we had quite a few drinks over the next 2 or 3 days. Yeah.
Who'd you say are the most fun Brighton players for a night out and drinking?
Do you want to know that, actually?
Of course.
I mean,
yeah.
you've got your favorites, obviously.
Yeah.
What would you reckon?
Oh dear, I think Lewis Dunk must be quite good. I reckon Shane Duffy, was he there?
Yeah,
Actually?
I mean, these two, obviously, Dave Stevens. I think these three guys were a good combination, I would say. Yeah.
It must have been so much fun out there, actually, and having all the fans as well in there.
I mean, for me as a German, I mean, we like to drink beer and have a party. I mean, I don't have a problem at all with it, but seeing these three guys especially, it's different level for me. I mean, they can drink so much, but I mean, I don't want to talk too much now about it. But it was fun. I mean, we had so much fun that time, and you have to celebrate these kind of things in a special way, and we've done that time.
I mean, you never know if it's going to come around again. Like Brighton have stayed in the Premier League now since then, so
yeah,
when it's the next promotion, who knows? Are we going to?
Who knows? Yeah, I mean,
got to make the most of
now it's really normal for them to stay up. They do it quite in a comfortable way now. When I watched this year, I mean, they had a little dip now, let's say 3 or 4 weeks ago, but now they started winning against Tottenham and Arsenal. So I mean, they're doing a great job right now. I try to watch as many games as I can.
Yeah, I'll ask you a little bit later actually about what your thoughts are on the current Brighton team. But finishing on the promotion season, obviously such a high going up into the Premier League, but then obviously the end of it being quite a few points ahead of Newcastle United, and then losing out on the title on the final day at Aston Villa. How did it feel to not win the league title? Did it matter much to you as players, or were you kind of just more focused that you got the promotion and got that job done?
It matters much to Chris Hughton that time. He was quite furious, especially when we played Norwich again away, because it was the week after, and I mean, we had quite a few days of drinking after we got promoted, and but when we played Norwich again away, what was the result in the end? 2-2, or we lost 3-2.
So I think it might have been 3-2.
It was 2 own goals by David Stockdale. It was quite unlucky.
It's one of the ones where it went off the post and into his back.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah.
I think we lost that game 2-1, and he was quite furious already at halftime. And we were looking at each other and we were saying like, "Oh, what the hell is going on?" I mean, we got promoted last week, and how is it not like even human not performing the week after in a perfect way? I would say, of course, you want to win the league title, and coming to Aston Villa away, it was. I mean, in the end, it was quite heartbreaking when you're going to lose out to the title. I was ill that day. I woke up in the morning. I didn't feel well. I told the manager I cannot play. I told the doctor, I don't know, I feel a little bit, I don't know, I feel uncomfortable. And all of a sudden I was in a team meeting and I was still on the starting lineup. And I looked at the doctor, doctor, I told you I cannot play. So after the meeting, I told the manager, sorry, I'm not feeling well. You have to play Fikayo, or Fikayo stepped in for me that time. And of course, we were a little bit sad after losing out on the title, but in the end, we've reached our main target, getting promoted. I mean, in the end, it wasn't a big deal for us losing out on the title. I mean, I remember just the promotion party back in Brighton. It was just one of the best experiences I've had in my life. The bus tour across, I don't know, 100,000 people standing at the seafront. It was just amazing, and no one really cared about winning a title or come in second place. It was just about getting promoted in the end. So we've reached our main target. So of course, in the first moment we were sad, but in the end, no one really cared, I would say.
Yeah, what are your memories from that day then with the promotion open bus tour? Was that, it must have been absolutely incredible. It must be one of the best days of your life, surely.
It was 100%. I mean, I think we've been in Vegas before. We've came back on, I don't know which day it was. And I had a little bit of a hangover from Vegas, and I felt still a bit sick, and I got ill actually after Vegas, not only because of alcohol. I felt bad for 2 or 3 days. So I came back to Brighton and we had the promotion party, and I didn't drink that day, but it was still one of the best experiences. I mean, we've entered that bus somewhere down of, I don't know, it was down there on a Brighton wheel, somewhere even further down. And then we've reached the city, and it was full of Brighton supporters. It was just amazing. The weather was perfect. It was just amazing. And then coming to the lawns down there at the seafront, the people were waiting for us. It was just amazing. You entered the stage in front of, I don't know, 50,000 people. It was just, I mean, I'm lost for words now. I don't know what to say about it. It's just in my head, and I will never forget that. And it was, as I said before, one of the best experiences in my life. And I've got promoted 3 times now, with Paderborn twice and with Brighton in 5 years. I got promoted 3 times. I mean, I was lucky enough to experience promotions so many times, but it was a different level in terms of, like, Brighton is a much bigger city, much bigger club than Paderborn will ever been and has ever been. And it was different level. It was just different level with the history Brighton has. And they've never been in the Premier League before. And 30 years ago, they've been in the first league. So it was just amazing. It was just incredible.
How does it rank getting promoted to the Premier League compared to being promoted with Paderborn? Obviously, Paderborn being more of a home club for you, and Brighton being a bigger club and going into arguably the biggest league in the world in the Premier League. How do they compare in that sense?
It's I don't want to rank it. I mean, getting promoted with Paderborn my first time was like a fairy tale as well, because Paderborn has never been in the Bundesliga. We still had a low budget that time. It was a miracle that we got promoted that time, and I was a big part of that team. I was a skipper that time. At the end of the season, I was second skipper by the start of the season, but our first skipper, he was already quite old, and he retired after that season. And but in terms of, like, emotions and how big it was, probably the Brighton promotion was much bigger, and probably it meant much more to the people around that city than it to the people in Paderborn, because Brighton supporters were even more passionate than Paderborn supporters. I mean, I would rank it on the same level, but it was different in general. But I would rank it on the same level for me in terms of my experience and my joy of experience at that time.
Yeah, I imagine it must be so difficult to try and put one above the other. Just all incredible, really. Your home club and then Brighton, of course. But
True.
going to the Premier League, am I right in saying you made one Premier League appearance in the end, and then you kind of went back to Paderborn? Is that right?
At least I made one.
Yeah, you made one. How was it to? It must be almost bittersweet to say that you've made one Premier League appearance and not more. But you must be so proud to have played in the biggest league in the world.
Yeah, actually, I'm really proud that I made at least one Premier League game, because it was still so difficult to get past by Lewis and Shane that time. I mean, they played on a high level every game. They were rock solid in the promotion year and then in the Premier League as well. Connor Goldson made a step forward that year. I was quite unlucky at one point that season when it was the game when Shane got injured at home to Everton, and I was his backup, and I came on for the last 20 minutes. At least I played against Wayne Rooney. This is my experience from my Premier League. And the next away game, he was fit again against West Ham, and Connor and me traveled both, and Shane traveled. And then the manager told me just, let's say 3-4 hours before the game and before our meeting, he told me that Connor is now going to be the backup for Shane, because he preferred Connor playing on the right-hand side, and he sees me more on the left-hand side where Lewis was playing. But actually, I'm a right footer as well, and I felt comfortable on both sides playing centre half. This was quite not a good decision, in my opinion, that time from Chris Hughton. It was pretty unfair to me to play Connor ahead of me. And Connor, I don't know how many games Connor played that season, maybe 6 to 10, because Shane got injured by the time or Lewis got suspended. But in the end, I wasn't really unhappy that year, because whenever I've got the chance to travel with the team, and I saw it more than getting all this experience, kind of seeing the stadiums, seeing the big clubs, traveling with the team, traveling even with the Brighton fans. I got knocked out of the squad quite late, but I was at 21st players most of the time. But I didn't bother anymore, because for me it was like enjoy the Premier League whenever you can, even though you're not playing, and train as hard as you can. And everybody told me that time, I mean, it's quite impressive how you keep your motivation in training so hard, pushing the boys to better levels, higher levels, because we needed that kind of competition in a squad at that time. And this was my task, as in my first season when I got injured or coming back from injury. And at the end of my Premier League season, it was like, they told me, "Oh, we're so happy with you, because it's so good to see that you working so hard, you're pushing the other guys so hard. We would like to maybe to extend your contract, but it's up to you. Maybe you want to play more football." And then it was about me making decisions, stay in Brighton or going back to Paderborn.
And did you in then just make that decision because of game time, and also it's just too good of an opportunity to turn down, I suppose, going back to that club? And you mentioned earlier that it was difficult to leave Paderborn in the first place, given you had your future laid out for you. It must have been in the end a fairly easy decision, or was it quite difficult?
To going back to Paderborn then?
Yeah.
The only problem was they've got relegated twice after I left Paderborn my first time. They just stayed in the third league because some of the other teams didn't get the license to play in the third league. That's why Paderborn stayed up in the third league. Then in that year, in my last year of Brighton, they played in the third division. They were fighting for promotion, and that was the only challenge they have to get done, because I only want to sign for Paderborn again when they get promoted to the second Bundesliga. So I was following every Paderborn game then back that time. I've signed in March. The day after, I've signed for Paderborn just in case they get promoted. the next 3 games they lost or they just drew, and I was like, oh my God, what the hell is now going on? I mean, it was the perfect place for me, pretty much going back to Paderborn, because I mean, it's quite. I mean, I was quite lucky to get a second chance to go back to Paderborn. I was 32 that time, and the CEO at that time was my former teammate, and he was the skipper in my first Paderborn time. So he was like, he knew me quite well, and when he heard that I would like to go back, or it's a possibility, he thought like, nah, I mean, he's playing for Brighton, maybe he can get better options. And I told him, I mean, for me, there's no better choice going back to Paderborn, because this is my home club pretty much, and I would like to go back. And when they got promoted, I was really happy to go back, and I mean, it was a right decision to go back. We got promoted again to the Bundesliga in my first year, which is pretty amazing. So I was quite a lucky boy in these 5 years, and I made good decisions for myself. And maybe or probably I made teams where I was playing better that time in any way, even though I didn't play a lot for Brighton. It was my challenge to make them better and performing better. And everybody of my teammates back in Brighton, they told me it's quite amazing to see how you keep your motivation in every single training session, even though you know you're not going to start on a weekend. And this is probably one of my biggest strengths still right now. It's my mentality and my mindset of playing football and how I see football, even though I'm not playing maybe regularly. Maybe next season they're going to sign some new center half, but for me it's still the best job I can do, and I love just football, whatever it takes, and whatever it takes in training, how hard it's going to be. I try to push myself as long as I can, and yeah, that's probably one of my biggest strengths still.
It's incredible to see, really, and motivational, because, you know, you see so many players who don't play as often anymore, and they start to think, oh, maybe football isn't for me anymore, and they fall out of love with the game. But to see you still going on, and 37 next year, did you say, and still playing and having such a hunger for the game, it is really great to see. And I remember watching, actually, when you left back for Paderborn and seeing you get promoted and thinking, wow, what an achievement that was. I didn't realise that Paderborn were good enough to go up, and I suppose it must have been a bit of a fairy tale for you anyway. You wouldn't have expected to go up, would you?
No, definitely not, because they just got promoted from second to third league, and we got promoted to the Bundesliga again in one way. And the last 7-8 years, it was like a roller coaster for Paderborn, going up to the Bundesliga. Pretty much got promoted to the 4th division, just stayed up because another club didn't get the license, stay up in the 3rd league, get promoted to the 2nd league, get promoted to the Bundesliga. Obviously, we got relegated straight away again, because I mean, Paderborn is still a smaller club in Germany, and luckily enough, we can establish this club in the 2nd Bundesliga now for the 2nd time in 2nd year in a row, and this is, yeah, it still makes fun for me playing football. I mean, as I said before, I just love that job and this kind of sport, and I try to motivate every kind of player, even younger players in my team now. They still don't know what it means to play football on a high level for a long time. Most of my teammates, they've got much more talent than me, but they don't have the right mindset to perform every day in training, and this keeps me alive playing football, because I know as long as I have the mentality, I still can challenge and perform and battle them in every training session, even though I'm getting slower and slower. But my body is still in a good shape, and yeah, let's see. Next year, maybe it's going to be my last year, but who knows?
That's just wait and see, I suppose, and how you're feeling with that. But a few more kind of fun questions in terms of who's the hardest player you've had to face up against and defend against, do you think, throughout your career, whether that be in Germany or in England?
Yeah, probably I have to say like the likes of Lewandowski and Aubameyang in the past when I played for Paderborn, and last year I played against Erling Haaland. This was
Wow.
quite a big challenge for me in my age. I mean, I was already 35, maybe already 36. No, I was 35. And we played them in a cup game. And I thought, ooh, that's going to be a big challenge for me, because obviously I'm not the quickest anymore, and he's a rising star right now. But we gave them a big fight, and they have to give it all to get through us. And we were quite unlucky to lose away to Dortmund. Unfortunately, it was without fans at that time, but we lost in extra time, and they had like a pretty shabby goal. It was like offside, and it was quite unfair to us. But for me, it was like the sign. Whenever you've got the right mindset, mentality, you can face any player on any level. And I think I would say these 3 players were the strongest I had to play against.
Yeah, it sounds like a right challenge, to be honest, playing up against Robert Lewandowski, one of the best strikers in the world. Haaland, as you say, potentially going to Manchester City at the end of this season and joining one of the best clubs.
Maybe you get to see him next year, maybe.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool to see in the Premier League and go see him at the Amex. I mean, having the prospect of Cristiano Ronaldo at the Amex is pretty incredible. Do you wish?
I was lucky enough. I played against Cristiano Ronaldo once.
Oh, you played against Ronaldo? I was going to say.
Yeah, true. It was like.
But you did.
When Borussia Dortmund turned 100 years, like it was 2009. We had like how do you say, like a special game? I don't know the like word for it now.
Match?
Yeah. I would say like that. So we played Real Madrid that time, and I played second half because our manager changed the whole team in the second half, and the likes of Raul were playing that time, Robin, Ronaldo. And I tried to make a sliding tackle to Ronaldo, and I won the ball. And unfortunately, he jumped over me. That was like my memory playing against Ronaldo, because it was the only time I was a little bit on the right side, and he came across me. The ball was a little bit far ahead of him, and I tried to tackle him with the ball, and unfortunately, he jumped over me. I would love to tackle him a little bit more, but that was my memory of playing Cristiano Ronaldo.
Did you want to just 2-foot Ronaldo, or just to get a bit on him? Yeah,
I mean, I'm a fair player, but I try to tackle him with the ball and get a little bit of him as well.
Yeah, that's. I don't blame you for that. And to see him jumping over the top, you must have been like, "Oh, for God's sake, really?"
Yeah. Who's that guy doing a sliding tackle in that kind of game? But we lost 5-1, I think.
Or not. 2009 up against Uwe Hünemeier must be one of his proudest moments, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely.
What about then your favourite? It must be difficult to point down one, but maybe a few of your favourite teammates over the years.
I mean, when I go back to Brighton, I'm still in touch a lot with Nicky Mampa and Yuri Skalak. I would say probably these are my 2 best teammates from that time. I'm still in touch with Bruno by time, and Glenn Murray, because I mean, these 2 players, they were so important for Brighton. And I mean, you cannot ask for better teammates coming to a club like Brighton. I mean, Glenn arrived a little bit later, but Bruno was so important for me coming to Brighton, and Glenn afterwards. I mean, I would say they were on the same kind of wave like me, like a little bit chilled down, focus on football, really disciplined, a little bit older. I mean, Bruno much older than me already, and really experienced players. And I could have learned a lot of them as well, even though I was quite experienced already. I would say probably these 4 guys. These are my best teammates from my Brighton time, and I'm still in touch with them. And whenever it's possible, I would try to come over back to Brighton. Unfortunately, it was quite difficult over the last 2 years, and this is on my agenda for the future, definitely, to see, especially Bruno is still in Brighton. Glenn is still living in Brighton, when I'm not wrong.
He's doing lots of work with like BT Sport and BBC.
Yeah, but
I think he's still probably based down in Brighton. I'm not sure.
Yeah, true. And I would love to meet these guys again and catch up with them. maybe talking about all times.
Yeah, I'm sure they'd love to reminisce about your times in Las Vegas and going on nights out with
Yeah, definitely
and,
true. Yeah.
and drinking for days on end. But kind of now looking at Brighton, one of the last questions actually, but how proud are you to see the club that you helped get promoted stay in the league? I mean, 40 points now. It's basically guaranteed for, what is it, 6th season in the Premier League now, I believe. It's incredible to see. It must be amazing for you as well.
I left on fifth season. They got promoted to 17. Now we've got 22. So I mean, to establish a club like Brighton in the Premier League, quite in a comfortable way in every season. I mean, they finish, I don't know, maybe 15th, 14th in kind of areas like that in every season. Now they made a step forward, especially since Graham Potter arrived. I mean, he gave young players a possibility to come through the ranks. Chris Hughton was not a big fan of young players. I remember playing in my last season. I was playing by the time with the under 23s or under 21s, and I played with Ben White, Robert Sanchez, Steve Malzate, who was Aaron Connolly. These 4 players were playing with me in the under 23s, and you could already see they've got big talent. But Chris Hughton was not a big fan of giving young players a chance. So it was really, I mean, it was a right step for the club to get a new manager in. I don't know actually when they sacked Chris Hughton. It was after a season in the Premier League.
Yeah, it was after season Premier League. We'd just been to the FA Cup semi-final and just about stayed up. But I think they'd already made a decision a couple of months before the end of the season that they wanted a brighter start with a new manager and to progress, that we needed someone like Graham Potter. So I think
it was definitely the right decision.
Yeah, I was going to say
to sign Graham Potter, and he played totally different style of football. I mean, Chris Hughton was 4-4-2, back four, solid. Don't play out from the back. Just keep it simple and defend as a team. Whereas Graham Potter is, I mean, at the beginning he was playing back four, back three, back five. His formations were quite fluent. I mean, he's established now, I would say, like the back three or back five, or a 3-4-3, which is right now his main formation, when I'm not wrong. And I mean, they playing such a wonderful football now. I mean, they've every other manager is praising Brighton for their football. I mean, if you watch an interview, Guardiola, Klopp, I mean, how can you not be proud, a Brighton fan, when managers like Guardiola and Klopp praising a club like Brighton? And it's good to see that Brighton is performing well, progressing well, and probably it's just maybe a matter of time. I don't know how long it's going to take, but a matter of time when maybe Brighton is going to make another step, maybe finish in top 10, maybe getting closer to Europa League places. I mean, it's pretty ambitious, because the top 6, they're miles ahead in terms of financial possibilities, and probably the kind of players they're still signing, but they're doing so well. I mean, it's a joy for me to watch Brighton games, and even against it now, they played Arsenal and Tottenham, and they were playing against them like if they're a big 6 team, because they're not shy of playing out from the back, keeping possession, and looking for their chances. And it's still a joy, and I'm really glad that I was part of that first promotion squad, and now they still doing so well, with still some players in that squad like Solly March and Louis Dunk, probably the only ones, when I'm not wrong. And Pascal came when we got promoted, but apart from that, I think there are no other players still.
Gosh, it's really racking my brains now. Of course, lots of youth players that were coming through at the time, but in terms of actual senior players, I don't think there are many.
Solly and Lewis.
No, even stars like Anthony Knockaert from the promotion season, one of the best players I've ever watched in a Brighton shirt, and he's moved on and he's gone to Fulham and Nottingham Forest, and he's struggled, but of course just got promoted again. Is it good to see? Did you get on well with Anthony Knockaert?
I mean, he was totally different to me in terms of like, he was loud and he was funny, and sometimes it was a little bit too much, but he was a good guy. He was a good teammate. You could always laugh with him, and obviously he was a standout player for pretty much 2 or 3 seasons, maybe even 4. I don't know how long he stayed in Brighton actually.
About 4 years, I think. 5.
It was 4 years, and
4,
I mean, he's done a brilliant job for Brighton. And I always try to follow where my old teammates how they're gonna do. And actually, he's not doing quite well now. He's not even in a squad in Fulham. He still have contract. I'm not quite sure what he's doing or how he's going on. Actually, it's not easy to find out something in the internet, or if you try to find out how he's doing. And I try to follow as much as I can for my old teammates, even with Toma in Australia now, Baran back in Israel, Yuri Skalak playing back in Czech, Nicky Mampes playing Serie A now for Venezia. He's right now.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. That's incredible.
Yeah, he started the season as a backup goalkeeper, but right now maybe the first keeper is injured. He's playing Serie A for Venezia.
Oh wow,
which is quite amazing. I mean, Nicky was
not a bad place to live either, is it, Venice?
Yeah, he made it quite a joke to Yuri and me, because we have a group chat. And one day he made a video of himself, and it was quite dark. And he said, "Oh, I'm not in a good place." And all of a sudden, he opened his window, entered the balcony, turned around his window, his phone, and said, "Oh, actually, the sun is shining. I'm in a good place. I'm in Venezia." And I said, "What the hell is going on?" He's living his dreams now, and yeah, he's doing still a great job. I think he's 38 years old. But he's loving playing football, and it's good to see that he's doing well. And it's amazing when you keep going and you're loving the football, you're always going to get your chance one day. And Nicky didn't play a lot when David Stockdale was in the goal, but he was such a good backup goalkeeper and such a good teammate, definitely.
Well, something I just kind of finish off on this question, something I like to ask people is, how would you like to be remembered when your footballing career is over? Obviously, you might go into management and coaching, but as a player, how would you like to be remembered?
Well, probably it's a question for supporters, how they're going to see me. But probably everybody will know me as a maybe a mentality monster, a disciplined player who always gave his everything for his club whenever he was called up. I always try to keep connections to fans as well. That's why I love to do maybe like podcasts like this or Zoom calls, because for me it's not a big deal to do that. I mean, I know a lot of footballers, they wanna live in their own environment. They want to just play football, and they see themselves as better people. Maybe, probably it's like that, especially in Germany. It's often like that. When you're earning a lot of money, they behave a little bit differently. But I'm not like that. I want to be like, now I am a Brighton supporter, and I maybe watching games like you. I'm sitting in front of a TV and maybe not as passionate maybe as you, but as long as they're players, they were my former teammates. I want to do Brighton doing well, and because I had such a great time in Brighton, and wherever I've been in my former teams, I try to follow them. And whenever I've got the chance, maybe I try to watch games and following the scores, and which is pretty normal for me, but probably not pretty normal for other players. So maybe you can tell me how Brighton supporters see me maybe now. I don't know. You've spoken to more supporters than I have.
Well, I think probably on the most parts, he was a bit of a fan hero, to be honest. I know he might not have been the first choice centre back in the promotion season or at any point, but kind of looking at, as you say, really hardworking defender, the big German, I think is what everyone liked to call you. And it was just, yeah, just great to see your passion for the club. And you can tell now as well, just the way you're speaking about football. You might be coming towards the end of your career, having one season left, but we just kind of saw you as that guy who would always keep fighting for the shirt no matter what. And I mean, as you're saying, it must be so difficult.
That's probably the most important thing that supporters can say about you. I mean, you don't want to say don't want to hear then when you're going to leave. I mean, he left and no one really cares about you anymore. And I don't have the feeling. And even though I didn't play that much, but I was a big part of that promotion squad, that first promotion squad to the Premier League. And even the year after, I didn't play a lot. Whenever I entered the Brighton Stadium, and I've seen supporters, they were so happy to see me. And whenever I've got called up to maybe cup games, I did my job. I performed well, and that's all I can do. And I mean, it's my job. I have to do a job for Brighton and for the shirt. And it was not a big deal for myself to do that. And I know a lot of players, they put their blame on the managers or someone else. That was not my intention whenever I didn't play that much, because it was up to me. I performed well in training and trained hard, and then it's up to the manager. And I had a great connection to Chris Hughton as well. And he talked openly to me. And yeah, that's the most important thing, I think, when I look back to Brighton. No regrets at all.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I don't think there'll be any regrets at all. But kind of for those fans that are in tune like myself, even if you're not starting games, being part of the matchday squad, being in training, working hard, pushing the others to be the best they can be, is such an involvement in itself, even if you didn't play any games. So I don't think anyone can underestimate your involvement in any season, and just your passion for the club was enough, even if you weren't playing at times.
True. I mean, you don't get the praise when you train hard. I mean, you get the praise of your teammates, which is in the end the most important thing. And if they performing well, I've done my bit during the week, because they had to work hard and train well, because otherwise the manager has to make a decision when they're not performing well. And this is the only task I could give to the manager. And you don't get the praise maybe every weekend, week in and week out from the supporters, because you're not playing. But afterwards, I mean, you hear supporters saying, "Oh, you've done so well," whenever you got called up when I left Brighton, and which gives me a good feeling leaving Brighton, and tells me that I've done a lot of things right in terms of training hard, performing well whenever I got called up. And I mean, that's the most important thing for myself, and that's why I always look back with big joy to Brighton.
Well, one thing is for sure, you'll definitely be welcome at Brighton at any point from any supporter.
I'm looking forward to it, 100%. I mean, I can't wait to come back to Brighton. And I mean, there's still a lot of familiar faces, especially around the squad and the team around the team. So it's on my agenda, definitely.
Well, it's been lovely to meet you, Uwe, and I really appreciate your time. As you say to me on the podcast, you don't mind at all, but I really do appreciate having an hour with you. It's been great.
No worries at all. I'm always up for it.
We really appreciate it. So thanks very much, Uwe, and all the best for the future.
Thank you very much as well. Bye-bye.